Machiavelli understood a rare and unsettling truth. Power does not belong to those who speak the loudest, but to those who master silence. In a world where words shape destinies and information dictates control, silence is not weakness. It is a weapon. It is the art of holding back when others reveal too much, of allowing pauses to unnerve, of forcing the world to lean in and listen when you finally choose to speak. Most people fear silence, mistaking it for absence rather than presence. They rush to fill the void, not realizing that the void itself is a tool. Machiavelli warned that wounds must be either deep or avoided altogether. Half measures only invite retaliation. The same applies to speech. Saying too little can make you mysterious, but saying too much can make you vulnerable. The wise do not fear silence. They wield it like a blade. A common mistake of those who crave influence is believing that words command respect. In truth, restraint is the highest form of control. Those who talk endlessly scatter their power, making themselves readable, predictable, and easily undone. The one who speaks with precision, who knows when to hold back and when to strike, bends the world to their will. Power does not belong to those who dominate conversation, but to those who make their words rare and intentional. Machiavelli knew that silence is the unseen force behind every throne, every negotiation, every game of control. It is not the chatter of a crowd that moves history, but the whispers behind closed doors. Words, once spoken, cannot be recalled, but silence, when mastered, is limitless. True power does not belong to the one who demands to be heard, but to the one whose silence speaks louder than words. Machiavelli made one thing clear: knowledge is the foundation of dominance. A prince must never take his eyes off war, he warned, but war is not only of swords, it is of knowledge. In a world where everyone seeks an advantage, power belongs to those who understand more than they reveal. Yet knowledge, when scattered carelessly through speech, loses its edge. True strategists conceal more than they display, waiting for others to unveil their hands first. A moment of silence, when used with intent, can wield more force than 1,000 eloquent arguments. Many are enslaved by the need for recognition, speaking not to influence, but to be acknowledged. They fill the air with words, hoping to affirm their presence, unaware that true power is found not in being seen, but in being unknowable. Fear and respect are born from mystery. If others cannot decipher your intentions, they cannot predict your actions. Machiavelli understood this deeply. Prudence outweighs mere honesty. It is not deceit, but discipline. Recognizing that not every thought must be voiced, that silence itself can shape perception more effectively than words ever could. In politics, business, and every game of power, the absence of information breeds unease. Uncertainty is a silent force that erodes confidence in adversaries while fortifying those who control it. The mind abhors a vacuum, and when left in silence, people rush to fill the void, often exposing themselves in the process. A carefully placed pause, an intentional withholding of words, can provoke more revelation from others than direct confrontation ever would. To master silence is to master the battlefield, for in hesitation and doubt, opponents unravel themselves. In discourses on the first decade of Titus Livy, Machiavelli warns that true leadership does not belong to those who speak the most, but to those who observe and wait. Impatience is the undoing of many who seek power, pushing them into hasty words and reckless promises. The shrewd leader lets others exhaust themselves with speech, allowing them to reveal their flaws through their own eagerness. They do not interrupt, they do not rush to correct. They simply listen, watching as others unknowingly expose themselves. The one who speaks less is often perceived as wiser, not because they possess greater knowledge, but because silence itself projects control. Those who do not scramble to explain, who do not chase validation through words, radiate an aura of authority. Meanwhile, those who talk too much leave behind trails of vulnerability, displaying their intentions without realizing it. Silence is not merely a shield. It is a weapon, transforming those who wield it into enigmas. And mystery, as Machiavelli knew, is the foundation of power. Impulsive leaders dig their own graves with words spoken too freely. Words can be weapons, but they can also be snares, trapping the careless in their own declarations. Once spoken, a word cannot be retrieved. It lingers, it is remembered, it can be turned against its speaker. Silence, then, becomes the tool of those who think before they act, who weigh the weight of each phrase before letting it slip. In The Prince, Machiavelli insists that a wise ruler never reveals their true hand. Transparency, while noble in theory, is a liability in practice. To be fully understood is to be predictable, and to be predictable is to be controlled. The one who deceives will always find those willing to be deceived, he observed, emphasizing that power does not belong to those who speak openly, but to those who understand the necessity of discretion. Speaking without restraint is like unlocking the gates to one's own fortress, inviting others in, handing them the keys to one's own downfall. Silence is more than the absence of speech. It is a space where observation sharpens, understanding deepens, and the right moment reveals itself. It is striking how the modern world has abandoned this principle. People speak before they think, post before they reflect, and expose themselves in ways that Machiavelli would have found laughable. True power is never in the need to be heard, but in the ability to make others want to listen. The greatest advantage belongs to those who master patience, prudence, and the restraint to wait. A well-placed silence is not merely a shield. It is a lure that compels others to overextend themselves, to unveil what should have remained hidden. Machiavelli understood that silence is not a passive tactic. It is an active instrument of influence, a quiet assertion of dominance. When one remains silent in conversation, the other person, unsettled by the void, instinctively rushes to fill it. In their eagerness, they disclose more than they intended, revealing intentions they meant to conceal. It is a subtle but devastatingly effective strategy. The most cunning individuals do not dominate with words, but with their absence, forcing others into a spiral of justification and unguarded speech. In The Art of War, Machiavelli emphasizes that a wise commander never strikes blindly. Strategy is built on foresight, on gathering intelligence before making a move. The same principle applies to words. Those who control their tongues do not simply avoid mistakes. They collect information, turning every silence into a net that captures the unwary. People reveal themselves when discomfort settles in. When silence stretches too long, they scramble to fill it with words they should have left unspoken. There is no need to interrupt them. Just watch as they hand over their thoughts, their insecurities, their intentions. The quiet observer does not need to rush. While others talk themselves into vulnerability, the one who remains silent gains control. In meetings, in negotiations, in every contest of power, the advantage belongs to the one who speaks the least, not out of ignorance, but out of understanding that every word has a cost. Those who speak out of anxiety or the hunger for validation unknowingly surrender their authority. Meanwhile, those who master silence command presence, drawing attention not with excess but with restraint. To remain silent with purpose is not to fade into irrelevance, but to heighten significance. The one who speaks only when necessary is never ignored. They are anticipated. Machiavelli knew that words, like any resource, hold value only when spent wisely. The right phrase at the right moment builds power, but excessive speech is a debt rarely repaid. The real question is not how much one should say, but whether they control their words or their words control them. In a world addicted to noise, those who choose their moments to speak, and more importantly, their moments to remain silent, hold the greatest influence. Machiavelli did not teach muteness. He taught the art of measured speech, of silence wielded as a tool of command. So, now that you understand this, Do you truly know when to hold your tongue, or are you still trapped in the need to speak before you think? Do you control your words, or do your words control you? Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe silence is a tool of power, or is speech the true path to influence? If you've made it this far, drop a 100 in the comments. It shows you are part of the 1% that's improving every single day.